G'day guys, and welcome to today's YouTube segment. My name's Grant, this is my daughter Sophia.
Hi.
And we've got a pretty exciting topic today. It's a topic that I found very little stuff on the internet, and something that I really wanted to know about when I got into backyard permaculture. And the topic that we're going to cover today is beehives and chickens. And it's a bit of a topic that has a lot of anecdotal evidence about the benefits of it, but very few things that actually prove it. But before we start, we've got a couple of people to introduce. We've got two of our mystery chickens. I've got this golden sprangled Hamburg. Her name's Goldie. She was actually gifted to me by a student at my school that couldn't no longer house her. And she was a cage chicken that we adopted. And she was very flighty and all over the place, but I thought I'd just include this lovely girl. Her name was originally Nugget, and we really didn't like that name. So sorry to, we won't say her name of course, who donated this chicken, but we changed her name to Goldie. And she still likes to sleep in trees, but one thing that's really special, and I'll see if I can get it on the camera, is she has these beautiful spurs. And she's probably one of the sweetest, tamest things we've come across. And it really shows how when you free range a bird, it changes its behavior totally. Now, so if you've got someone that you want to introduce as well.
So this is, I don't know if, can you see her? Yeah. So this is Taffy. She is a dwarf English
Bantam English game, and that was pretty cool. This is one that Soph got from, that Soph and I accidentally bought at an auction. We were at a purebred poultry auction, and they had a lot, what was it, 76?
Yeah, 76.
And what happens at a purebred poultry auction is you buy what's ever in the cage. And we had our little number. What number were we?
We were
43?
Yeah, 43.
43, and they said, oh, just letting you know there's one chicken for sale. There used to be two. She killed her cellmate, and as a result we're dropping the price. And Soph and I sort of panicked, because that meant it would go as low as possible to someone that may not appreciate it, and because it's got a history of violence, it was probably going to get the chop anyway. So before we know it, we ended up getting her for $20. She was probably one of the most aggressive chickens I've ever come across. When I brought her home, I went to get her out. Instead of crouching down like most chickens, she turned around and she just lashed out and actually cut me up quite bad. But as you can see now, just like Goldie, they turn into the most beautiful subdued birds. Now, so today's topic is bees and chickens, and let me tell you, it is one of the best combinations on the planet. Today's a pretty short video. We're just going to, instead of tell you about it, we're just going to show you some footage that we've taken over the last day or two of how our bees interact with our chickens. And I use the word interact deliberately because there is some kind of symbiotic relationship going on that is really quite fascinating. So without any more ado, let's get into it. So those of you new to Sophia and my YouTube channel, I thought it might be really helpful to show the backyard that we have. So as you can see, around the perimeter of our fence, we have espaliered fruit trees. And then we have these nice rows of columnar apple trees, which are really cool. You'll also notice, even in our planting phases, lots and lots of lavender, because we've got, you wouldn't believe how much lavender we grow in our front yard and backyard, because it's a really good go-to source for the bees. So we've been videoing in this seat up here. To the top left, you'll see the fountain and the beehives. We actually swapped the position of the beehives and the fountain. We moved the fountain about 2 meters from the corner and then put the beehives right in the corner, which receives the most sun. That was done for a couple of reasons, which we'll get into later in the video. So without any more ado, now you can see what our backyard looks like and see how our design is. So as you can see, I have two 8-frame Langstroth hives. You might get a question or two. Yes, they are the Flow Hive brand, but I have taken my two supers off. I don't actually run the Flow Hive super because I really just like the whole process of extracting honey. And I just find in our climate, also with our viscosity of our honey, the flow is not that effective. And it's just a lot of fun extracting honey. So if you have a little look at this, this is our two beehives in our top left corner of our garden, according to the map before, and I've just got a couple of sunflower seeds because I want to entice them from behind. As mentioned before, the beehive is only about 1.5 to 2 meters from the wall, and the chickens love hanging out there. Just like all beekeepers, we try to place our beehive in the place that gets the most sun and the most, the least rain. This means that behind the actual hive is actually really dry, so it becomes a perfect dust bath area. If you look at those trees behind, they're also persimmon trees. We deliberately planted these trees in this top corner, so in winter it creates just a really orange, vibrant corner. As they've only been in the ground 3 years, they're looking a little bit juvenile. But as you can see already, the bees and the chickens, they just get along so well. They don't annoy each other, and you would assume that such a big mob of chooks this close to such a high density hive, you'd think there'd be all kinds of trouble. That light Sussex, she's just not keen on saying hello to me. She's not stressed about the bees. And you'll notice the bees don't swarm, don't stress, and there's this really nice, relaxed relationship going on. And I guarantee as soon as they finish eating these little sunflower seeds, they'll turn on their heel and march back behind, which is pretty cool. Yeah, she doesn't want to come out that one, for sure. I included this footage just to show how chilled out the chooks are around. A couple of cool things. You might notice the Buff Orpington just on the left there. She's the one that was singing in my first video that my daughter and I posted. She was singing Let It Go. If you just go to that first video and fast forward, you wouldn't actually believe I actually got a copyright complaint from Walt Disney for including that clip of a chicken singing, which I thought was hilarious that such a big corporation would be focusing on me. And just behind her, you'll see the Barred Rock. She's in the middle of a heavy molt, and she's one of our oldest chooks. She's about maybe 8 years old, and one thing she loves to do is just lie down, sunbake, and when any dead bees are around the hive, she'll just snap them up. Also, with it watered before the beehive, occasionally get the odd drowned bee, and that's a big treat for the ducks. But we'll talk about ducks later. So yeah, so as they push past the nice Barred Rock and the Buff Orpington, you can see just how chilled out around the hive it gets. So my daughter and I decided we'd talk a little bit about how our beehive goes with our dog and our chicken. Now, our dog called Rooster, he's a bit of a bit loved on YouTube. Our videos always get good hits, but he lives full times with the chickens, but he can get quite annoying. Although we love him, he does give the chickens a bit of a run for their money. He does stop the hawks and the eagles swooping, which we used to have a big problem before, but I wanted you to really focus on what just happened. He went behind the beehive to have a little look at annoy the chooks, but then the bees buzzed him. They don't always sting dogs, they buzz them, where they get close to the dog and change their frequency, and that's enough for a smart dog to back off. And because the bees and the chickens get along so well, it becomes a really nice respite place to keep the stress low. So you'll see, I think in a minute, the chooks go straight back to the area, and it becomes a really nice safe place where they can have a break from the dog, who they love and get along well with, but he does get annoying, let's be honest. Before we jump into our next section that looks at ducks and poultry around beehives, I just want to have a bit of a mention of the hive beetle. The hive beetle is a beetle that comes from Africa that wreaks havoc in your hive, laying eggs within the wax, and a weaker hive can really succumb to it. I have noticed that ever since we got our beehive, the one on the right had a bit of hive beetle, but due to this intensive grazing with the chickens spending between 2 and 4 hours a day sleeping and eating around it, I actually have noticed a really drop in hive beetle to the point where it's almost non-existent. And we haven't even put in a hive trap with domaceous earth and gaps to fall down. So although there's no hard evidence, from my experience, I have noticed a huge drop in hive beetle as a result of chickens.
Before we go, we wanted to have a little chat about how ducks go with beehives.
Well said, Soft. We have Muscovy ducks, which are one of the best ducks to have in the backyard because they keep flies down, and also they're really good at breaking the pecking order. And what I mean by that is if you don't have a drake, the strong, robust nature of the female peaking means she'll be one of the head hens but won't be that interested, so you'll never have infighting. So what's going on here, Soph?
So they're actually trying to find any bugs like mosquitoes before we pump out.
Yeah, well said. Once a month, we pump out our fountain water, and on the alternate month, we pump out our pond for them. And we use it to irrigate our fruit trees, just as a way to keep it all cool. And you'll notice what happens here, Soph. When the water gets really low, the ducks love digging through. But what else do they love to do, Soph?
They like flapping around and looking through it.
Exactly. This footage was taken 2 years ago, back when we had one beehive. And I really want you to have a look at how aggressive their behaviour is. They're really smashing that water. And a lot of water gets flicked on the hive, and the bees literally do not care. And we've got this myth in, especially in Australian culture, that you flick a beehive and a swarm chases you. But as you can see, the Muscovy ducks get really into the water. They get really into preening and washing themselves, and the bees don't care. In fact, once they leave, and you'll notice when we zoom in, you can even see a little bit of water in the hive. You'll see the bees fanning themselves and getting a bit of air through the hive, and they're good as new. We didn't catch any of this footage today when we filmed, so we're just using a little bit of old footage. But as I said, Muscovy ducks mixed with backyard chickens, as long as there's not a drake, are one of the best things you can have. Keeps the flies down, keeps the fighting out, and it just adds a nice sort of dynamic and a different type of eggs. Cool. So as you can see, the hive's pretty wet here, and the bees are just not really interested or caring. And here's them fanning themselves just to dry it off, and they're right as rain. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for listening.
Like and subscribe.
Well said, Self. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.